Metro City elections coming up on August 1st. One of our guests today is a mayoral candidate, Dr. Carol Swain. Dr. Swain, much in the news the last couple of days has been not only the coming of the NFL draft here, but in order to accommodate that, we've had to cut down and move, we had to move some of the cherry trees along First Avenue. There's been quite an outcry about that. If you were mayor, how would you have handled that situation differently?
Well, hopefully the situation wouldn't have happened. It's my understanding that they did not apply for permission from the Parks Department, and so had they followed the procedures that anyone else would have followed, we would have known about it. And so the whole thing could have been prevented. And this thing about
but if it could have been, how would it have been prevented? Because you still have to move the trees or do something.
Maybe they could have found another location. I mean, at least the Parks Department would have known about it, and the public would have known about it, and the City Council, so that they could have looked at other options. And so I think that it was handled badly, and it just shows the tendency of the city to always go with the highest bidder, And so we want the NFL draft, but at the same time, it's important that we don't have special rules for certain people, and that's the problem. There's so much favoritism that goes towards some corporations and developers, whereas everyone else has to follow the rules. And so they did not follow the rules when it came to the Parks Department.
Well, the city said they didn't have to do that. In fact, the Parks Director supposedly was involved in this. She just said it was an oversight that it didn't get sent to the Park Board. You don't believe that?
An oversight. I think that...
You don't believe that? You don't? You think that they didn't follow the rules?
Well, I mean, we wouldn't have known about it had it not been leaked at the last minute. And so I'm glad that we know about it, and I'm glad the public responded. But for the public, I think it was about the cherry trees, but it was bigger than the cherry trees. It's just about how Metro Nashville conducts its business. And it seems like they're less concerned about everyday people, more concerned about big corporations and developers. You
talked about first responders and police and your concerns about that. Are those groups, particularly there are unions that you're going after to try to get their support? They are groups that are known to endorse in these races. Have you talked to the FOP? Have you talked to the firefighters about getting their endorsement?
Well, what I've been doing is going to the police roll calls, talking with the officers themselves. And so I've been to the North Precinct, that's 6:30 and 2:30 roll calls, and that's when the officers come in before their shifts. And I'm going to do a ride along on the 13th with the North Precinct. But my plan is to work my way through all the precincts, talk with the officers, and yes, I've been to the FOP and I've spoken with the firefighters, and it's not about the endorsements, it's about the safety in Nashville. And I've been told by the firemen that it takes 4 men to operate a truck. They're running 3 men per truck. They don't have the equipment they need for a modern day catastrophe downtown in any of those high-rise buildings. So we are not taking care of our first responders. The police are running short. If you make a call to the police, you might as well be able to, you might as well expect to have to fend off an intruder for about 20 minutes because they don't have enough officers to get to places on time. And so I'm talking with police officers. They need new leadership. They need competitive pay. And
so if you're elected mayor, you would ask the current police chief to step down?
Yes, I would. I said last time I would replace him. They need new leadership. The morale is in the toilet.
A new fire chief as well?
Pardon?
A new fire chief as well?
Oh, I've not heard any complaints about the fire chief. I've always seen and observed this police chief, and I don't think that he has the confidence of the people or the people at large, but also the men that serve under him. And so that has to be addressed. And then with all our emergency personnel, Nashville is growing, and we cannot neglect our first responders. We've been doing that for too long.
A lot of this came to a height after last year the city decided it couldn't afford the 3% pay raise it had promised workers last year. That's still an issue. The mayor says he's going to try to offer a 3% pay raise this year. I suspect you don't think that's enough, but where do you find the money, say, to fund what's in the school budget, apparently, at least what's being proposed at 10% of a pay raise? That would be kind of hard for the city to find, particularly if they had to find it between now and the 1st of July.
The mayor has always found money to do whatever he wanted to do. And so it's a priority to me, first for the Metro employees to get their raises because they have not been taken care of. And when it comes to the police, Like, I don't know where I will find the funds to do what needs to be done, but I know that that's a priority. So that's going to come first, public safety.
And 3%,
that affects all of us.
And 3% of a pay raise is not enough. What is enough?
I didn't
to get started. Well, what would be enough of a pay raise to do that? And if you,
for the
what kind of money do you think you can find?
Or,
well, I mean, you have the police officers are part of the general pay.
You're asking me things that you can't know the answer to until you, for some of these things, until you're actually in office. And so the 3% pay raise, it was promised. It should have been honored last year. And I think that there's a lot of waste in metro government, and we go after the waste first. And when it comes to the competitive pay for police officers, I think that again, that's a priority. That has to be budgeted in, and we have to stop wasting so much money. And the council members that want a tax increase, they want to raise property taxes, they want more money to waste. And I think that if we're forced to raise taxes because of the debt, then as long as I'm mayor, we're not going to be wasting money the way we've wasted it in the past.
So you believe at this point, are you willing to say at this point that you would not raise taxes not only in your first year as mayor, but throughout the first term as mayor,
I'm
first 4 years?
I'm not promising anything, because I will not know the state of the city until I'm actually there. And so I'm not going to tie my hands for the future by making promises I can't keep.
But you sure there's plenty of waste in Metro?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I mean, we looked at that last time. We went over the last budget, and so there's plenty of waste in that budget, plenty of fat. And I think that we need to hold the various entities accountable, and we're not doing that very well.
Dr. Carol Swain's our guest on Inside Politics. She's a candidate for mayor in the August 1st election. Back to continue our conversation with Dr. Swain after you watch these messages.